President Obama is making a rare visit Wednesday to Boise, Idaho, which just happens to be where the family of Pastor Saeed Abedini lives. Pastor Saeed is a U.S. citizen who's been wrongfully imprisoned by Iran, and the American Center for Law and Justice says this is the perfect opportunity for the U.S. government to show more of an interest in Pastor Saeed's plight. Joining us now with more is Jordan Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice. Jordan, so what do you want to see President Obama do while he's in Boise?
Well, this is, and thank you, Ephraim, for having me on, a unique opportunity. As you said, it's not at a place President Obama visits often, and it happens to be the hometown of the Abedini family. This is where Naghmeh Abedini, Pastor Saeed's wife, their two children, Rebecca and Jacob, this is their hometown. And it's a hometown that has really covered this story, and so people know about it from the news, from local churches, where the family has gone and spoken to, not just their own church. They followed the Abedini story since it's been something in the news. And so this unique opportunity, the day after the State of the Union, for President Obama, outside of Washington, D.C., outside of the politics of Capitol Hill and here in our nation's capital, to take just a few minutes of his time to sit down with the Abedini family. We believe it's important for them. And, you know, Naghmeh, this is something she is interested in doing in a respectful way, and she's written a letter to President Obama, a very respectful letter. But also, as we know, sometimes it's important when you have that opportunity to remind the leaders, especially those like the President of the United States, who oftentimes get their information from their staff and what their staff chooses to get onto their desk. The importance that this is not just a talking point or a family's name that you go through in a list at a press conference. It's a real family, and it's a reminder of that.
Well, we know that U.S. officials have been negotiating with Iran over its nuclear program. Have they brought up cases of U.S. citizens being held captive by the Iranian regime?
The White House and the State Department have taken a very firm stance that they are trying to keep these separate. So even last week, and we were appreciative of the news that Secretary of State John Kerry met with his Iranian counterpart specifically on the issue of the Americans being held, Saeed and the other two Americans, the one missing American, so 4 total. At the same time, the similar response from Iran. There's not a resolution to it, not a firm answer to the United States. I don't want to discourage those talks, but at the same time, remember, the United States would not be sitting at any tables. There would not be any meetings between our Secretary of State and their foreign minister, or our president calling their president, without the nuclear talks. So to try and totally distinguish the two is really impossible. Before the nuclear talks, all of this would have been handled back-channel communications through other countries because there was no diplomatic relationship or public dialogue between Iran and the United States. So to completely separate that, as the White House and the State Department continue and try to do, I think may be part of their optics and part of their discussion point, but I don't think it makes a lot of logical sense when you just realize that there would be no talks at all, like this public talk, without the nuclear talks.
Well, real quickly, I want to ask you about Pastor Saeed's health. We know that he has been ill. How is he doing?
You know, this has been a tough time. There was a period of time, and we're grateful that this is coming to a close, where it was tough for anyone to get approved to visit Saeed. And so those weekly visits, which have been, and they're only a few minutes, but have been so crucial in letting the world know, even our officials in the United States, the U.S. government, know how Saeed is doing. There are some spans of time where those have not been weekly, and that we've had to go for a few weeks at a time. Those are supposed to resume tomorrow. So even these small victories, making sure those meetings continue so that we know how Saeed is doing, it's very important. He's not gotten the full medical care that he needs. That's still a real issue that hangs out there. At the same time, we'd much rather have Saeed home to deal with those medical issues than prolong his imprisonment in Iran.
Absolutely. We'll certainly be praying for those visits to happen again. Thank you, Jordan. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ephraim. Thanks for having me.